Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. Sometimes on Billboard Breakdown, we get some pretty rough weeks. But sometimes, you get the weeks where it all just clicks in the best way possible. The good songs win, the bad songs lose, the new songs kick ass, and even the returning tracks aren't bad. I don't think it's quite possible to have a perfect week simply based on the law of averages. I reckon it's pretty much impossible for a Hot 100 that's all great music, but you can have great weeks. And folks, we came pretty damn close here. Yeah, we had a couple songs I'd describe as pretty rough, but not always that terrible. But we also got a bona fide classic entering this chart, and I couldn't be happier than about that. But before we discuss that song in detail, let's talk about the one place where things were not interesting in the slightest this week. The top 10. Mostly because so little changed. I mean, sure, Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars finally peaked in airplay, seems to be slowly receding, but it's so dominant in the market that its closest competition isn't even close. That would be Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran, which also peaked in airplay. And really, it's kind of surprising it held on here, granting it wasn't the strongest in sales, streaming, or YouTube. Also because close behind it was Sugar by Maroon 5, which has been consistently gaining across the board like usual. Not topping everything, but good sales are helping. Behind it, thanks to huge streaming, is Ellie Goulding's Love Me Like You Do holding steady at number 4. Although solid airplay boosts are helping it there as well. Behind it, unsurprisingly, 4 or 5 Seconds by Ariana, Kanye West, and Paul McCartney, which is doing strong in sales and in streaming, but YouTube has always been shaky, and it looks like airplay may have peaked early for this track, which is kind of interesting for me. Below that, we've got another upward shift by Style by Taylor Swift at number 6, which is still gaining airplay well enough to compensate for its weaker video performance and a pretty thin sales week. And for Earned It by The Weeknd jumping to number 7, thanks to strong sales and streaming compensating for not a lot of airplay or YouTube whatsoever. Both were enough to push down Take Me to Church by Hozier down to number 8, which is holding on decent enough sales and streaming in YouTube to compensate for steadily dropping airplay. It probably won't last long in the top 10, and will likely be overtaken by Pitbull and Neo's Time of Our Lives pretty soon, which jumped up to number 9 this week thanks to sales and streaming compensating for painfully weak YouTube and airplay gains. Finally, we've got Blank Space by Taylor Swift holding on to number 10, which is only here because it's still somehow massively dominant on YouTube, and that's pretty much it. But even that will not last forever. I can see this song being replaced come next week. And on that topic, let's talk about our dropouts and losers. As expected this week, Bang Bang by Jessie J, Ariana Grande, Nicki Minaj finally exits the charts, along with Drinking Class by Lee Brice, Often by The Weeknd, and a whole load of Big Sean songs that weren't going to stick around anyway. But honestly, we didn't get a lot of losers this week, and even less that I actually care about that left the charts. I mean, the one song that I'm a little disappointed to see kind of weaken here is Like a Cowboy by Randy Houser going to 82, but it wasn't really catching on country radio, so I get why it's dropping. Beyond that, the rest of the drops, they make sense. Sundays by Florida Georgia Line continues its free fall to 81 because it's just at the end of its run, probably will be out next week. I Bet My Life by Imagine Dragons keeps fading out at 59, now the album hype is completely gone. Energy by Drake drops to 51 because, well, Drake's not promoting any songs from that album as singles or releasing videos for them. And Coco by OT Genasis and I Want You to Know by Zedd featuring Selena Gomez dropped to 55 and 38 respectively because they suck. They're lousy songs, plain and simple, and most of our gains this week are pretty decent enough too. Nobody Love by Tori Kelly and You're So Beautiful from the Empire cast, they pick up a little bit of traction off their debuts, going from 79 and 47 respectively. The Hanging Tree by Jennifer Lawrence gets a final breather to 70, probably won't last long, but it's nice to get to see it a little bit of gains. The Zac Brown Band get a welcome boost for Homegrown going to 46. Nice to see a strong single for the album drops in just over a month, and Heartbeat Song by Kelly Clarkson gains a big boost from her album and goes up to 21. The only two gains that kind of surprised, and I'll admit disappointed me, were Know Yourself by Drake going to 65, now bypassing the greatest success of Migos, whose flows he's biting badly on this track, and Watch Me by Silento, which wouldn't exist without a half dozen bad dance hip-hop songs, and somehow manages to be worse than all of them. Go figure. But really, there wasn't a lot of activity here, so let's talk about our returning entries.
But you thought the grass was greener on the other side. I bet you start loving me soon as I start loving someone else, somebody better than you.
Not surprised to see this back thanks to the release of a full music video, but it's definitely great to see it. I've already said my piece on I Bet. Great acoustic vibe, one of Ciara's better performances, solid writing towards a kiss off towards Future, who always deserves it, with the only element not being great is the usage of Future samples to punctuate Ciara's ascendancy. That's more because I don't want to hear Future, period. Still though, I'm happy to see the song back, so no complaints.
Give it to me, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Give me, I'm worth it. Give it to me, I'm worth it.
A little surprised to see this back. I mean, it's picked up a little bit of airplay, but beyond that, I thought the hype for Fifth Harmony was effectively gone by this point. The rapid decline of Sledgehammer seems to prove that point. As it is, this song is thoroughly unimpressive. Kid Ink's verse is pointless, the best parts of the song are the pre-choruses, and the best singers of the group aren't nearly given the amount of spotlight that they should be. Next.
So no, honey, I'm good. I could have another, but I probably should not. I got somebody at home, and if I stay, I might not leave alone. No, honey, I'm good. I could have another, but I probably should not. I gotta bid you adieu to another. I will stay true. I will stay true.
Okay, so believe it or not, somebody actually took the time to diss me on my personal blog for liking this song. I gotta say something, that takes dedication. And yeah, okay, the song is corny as hell and pretty damn goofy considering it's about how Andy Grammer is turning down getting free sex from a girl in favor of staying true from his girlfriend and getting home to her, which is not often a topic that gets written about, but honestly, it works here. The groove is catchy as hell, the sentiment is well played, and there's enough broad charisma to make it work. Of the songs that came back this week, this is definitely my favorite. Hell, it won Best of the Week a while back. Though this week, it might have some stiffer competition. And that's our returns. Now on to our new arrivals, starting with number 97, Where Are You Now by Skrillex and Diplo featuring Justin Bieber.
Where are you now that I need you?
I feel I went through this just last year when I discovered that Skrillex apparently out of nowhere dropped a debut album that I then covered to the general disgruntlement of everyone, including myself. Well, now that the dubstep bubble has effectively blown over, he's collaborating with Diplo and another soon-to-be irrelevant music feature, Justin Bieber, for a new song. And it's okay. Justin Bieber sells the emotion well enough through the verses, and even despite coming across a little bit more confrontational than he should, it mostly works for this sort of anger at being there for a partner and then getting let down when there's little to no reciprocation. But my issues come through in the production. Whether or not that's that god-awful chipmunk voice in the verses or that squealing hook, it just completely sucks me out of the vibe of the song and just does not fit the emotion whatsoever. I guess I can see the appeal with Justin Bieber on the track, but otherwise, yeah, sorry, not for me. Number 96, Monster by Meek Mill.
Tell me noodles and a pasta. The money tell me tuna and a lobster. They wanna do me, I'ma know it like a monster. I put my jeweler on his feet. $100 used to do that every week. Never sleep is funny, I would never speak. You see a foreign in my city, that was me.
Okay, you know, there's an art to doing brag and luxury rap right, and that comes in not talking down to the audience. And one of the rappers who's got a really bad reputation of doing that for me is Meek Mill, Philadelphia rapper affiliated with Rick Ross. And yet, after 3 singles from his upcoming album doing nothing on mainstream radio, this track from the NYC All-Star 2015 mixtape put out by Maybach Music Group for the NBA All-Star Game this year has landed on the charts. And it's painfully mediocre at best. Honestly, kinda sucks. See, the other criteria I didn't mention here is actually being a good rapper. I thought that was assumed. And Meek Mill does not impress me here. His bars are sloppy and frequently don't rhyme. His production is only distinctive for having a thick bass line, and his content is completely recycled and generic brag rap that only gets interesting when it's terrible. Saying you eat pussy like a monster is never a brag you should make, dude, especially when you're up against this sort of production. In other words, if you need another slice of bad, forgettable luxury rap, here you go, but otherwise, next. Number 94, She Don't Love You by Eric Paslay.
She can't tell her heart to lie. No, you'll never be her one and only. She don't love you, she's just lonely.
I've been talking about this song since February of 2014. Not just because it's a good song, not just a great song, but one of the best goddamn songs of last year. No joke whatsoever, it reached number 3 on my list of my favorite songs of 2014. That's all of them. And it was my favorite country song of the year. A gorgeous neo-traditional country track that hits you like a ton of bricks, with Eric Paslay's impassioned delivery and damn near perfect storytelling, with a gut punch in the end that hits all the harder. I was thrilled when Eric Paslay was releasing this as a single, and now with the video release, it's now started climbing on the country charts and has subsequently reached the Hot 100. In a just world, this will turn into his biggest hit and make Eric Paslay's career beyond the implosion of bro country where he was initially marketed. Folks, we rarely get songs this incredible on mainstream radio, and it should all get our support. I cannot recommend this song highly enough. Number 93, Adore by Cashmere featuring Ariana Grande.
It's just you all the time. We don't need to go away tonight. It's you and I will be alright. 'Cause here we get to take our time. You're finer than someone.
You know, it's pretty easy to accept at this point that any song with Ariana Grande on it in some way will land on the Hot 100, even if she's just featured. In this case, it seems like she's returning the favor to Cashmere for appearing on her recent album with a pretty good modern R&B jam, with returning on his newest single. And I'll give him this, it's a more interesting track. For one, Ariana gives a more sensual performance over the verses, at least until the chorus, which just devolves into barely intelligible fragments. The production change up from washed out twinkling pianos to acoustic guitar to these hollow feeling flutters, it does work pretty well from verse to verse, it is interesting, but did he have to use that clanking sound to punctuate all of Ariana's first verse? It really felt out of place to me. As it is, this song will certainly satisfy your fix of Ariana Grande if you want more of it, and it is better than her last hit with Cashmere, but you know what, she has done better. But still, I'll take it. Number 91, Don't It by Billy Currington. Man, has it really been around a year and a half since I talked about Billy Currington? For those of you who don't know or weren't watching my channel a year and a half ago, Billy Currington broke into mainstream country about 12 years ago, and he's been a fairly reliable presence ever since then, writing simple, often downbeat stories in his country songs. Hell, even his stab at more bro country subject matter in 2013 with songs like Hey Girl, at the age of 39, I might add, was born more of irascible charisma and some clever songwriting. Now he's got a new lead-off single for a new upcoming album, and really, I'm a little embarrassed how much I really like this song, mostly because it's amazingly dumb. Trying to match the rhyme scheme's cadence to the groove is always kind of ambitious on songs like this, and there are lines here that do ring as a little forced. Karaoke, we can microphone it, baby, don't say no so quick. Actually, I'm sorry, that line's not just forced, it looks desperate and not in an attractive way. But you know what? When the groove is this good and the melody and percussion are balanced well, and while the production is a little bit too clean for my preference in country music, it's not done badly here for this sort of country. So yeah, you know what? I'll take it. Number 71, New Romantics by Taylor Swift.
Heartbreak is the national anthem. We sing it proudly. We are too busy dancing to get knocked off our feet. Maybe we're the new romantics. The best people in life are free.
Okay, if I actually believe that Taylor Swift actually knew what the New Romantics movement was in the early 80s, the synth pop wave that exploded out of the UK and the second British invasion, I'd actually be excited. As it is, it's the last of her deluxe edition singles from her album, with her labels releasing piecemeal to wring out as much money from her fans as possible, and honestly, it's probably one of the better songs. Yeah, it's overproduced, the synths are pretty thin and crushed behind the percussion, and I wish that Taylor sounded a little bit better on the song. She doesn't sound great, but the lyrics are actually pretty decent. Playing at 22, but unlike that song, which I couldn't stand, there's more self-awareness at how the wild side could rub off on them in a rougher way, which makes it a lot more likable for me. It's not Taylor's best by a long shot, and I do get why it was a bonus song given its themes, doesn't really match up with the rest of 1989, but she's definitely done worse, so I'll take it. Number 48, I Really Like You by Carly Rae Jepsen. Okay, let's make this clear. I didn't like Call Me Maybe. Not because it was girly or poorly orchestrated or clumsily written, but because the stakes of the song were so thin. It was a song about meeting a guy. That was it. At least for most teenage romance songs, they go for bombast that fits young love, not something that restrained and lightweight. But after she teamed up with Owl City for the much better song Good Time, Carly Rae Jepsen seemed to drop off the face of the earth for a while before returning with a new single for her upcoming 2015 album, along with a video that featured Tom Hanks and wait, is that Justin Bieber again? Well, if anything, it's less impressive than Call Me Maybe, which is saying something. At least that song had a melodic hook in the foreground instead of typical modern production where the percussion and beat is a lot more important than any melody. And sadly, it suffers the exact same problem as Call Me Maybe did. No stakes. Instead of actually playing for the love at first contact, it goes on for her to repeat the word really 6 times to fill up space in one line of her chorus, which isn't exactly a sign of good songwriting. And once again, there isn't really much of a song. She really likes this person. At the end of the day, look, I don't see this being anywhere near as huge as Call Me Maybe. And you know what? I'm not exactly disappointed by that either. Number 42, Conqueror by Empire Cast featuring Jussie Smollett and Estelle. So yes, okay, Empire is on my schedule to watch. I'm working my way up to it, but trust me when I say that TV has kind of fallen by the wayside in recent weeks, and this past week, even more so. That said, of the 3 songs from the show that I've heard thus far, this is probably the weakest. The beat's pretty leaden across the verses, and when things do intensify during the chorus, the compression and pitch correction is so gratuitous it just becomes annoying and unnecessary. Yeah, I know you get that thanks to TV show production times and Timbaland not exactly being a guy known for producing many power ballads in this way, but man, it's underwhelming, especially for a track that's trying to emphasize conquering power. And look, it's not a bad song. Jussie Smollett is still strong enough vocalist to save it, and Estelle does a solid job too, but you know what? They've done better than this. And number 15, All Day by Kanye West, featuring Theophilius London, Allan Kingdom, and Paul McCartney.
How many runners do you got on call? All day, nigga. Swish. How long they keep you in call? All day, nigga.
You know, I miss the day when a new Kanye track would get me excited instead of a mixture of underwhelmed and irritated. But you know what? The more I dug into All Day, the first new single where he's actually dropping bars and rapping, the less I liked it. I could start with the fact that the production is still swole with more pitch correction and 808s than it really needs, especially when there are some great moments that are outside of that. The echoing muffled shout in the back half of the first verse, the ghostly symphonic vocals peppering the song, the organ synth on the first half of the second verse. Hell, I even thought that even though Kanye's verses weren't anything all that special, they weren't bad either. At least they were well technically structured, which I could appreciate. But the hooks from Allan Kingdom and Theophilius London, they were underwritten and not all that impressive. Paul McCartney's whistled guitar interlude comes out of nowhere and really doesn't do all that much for me. And after that transition, we're left with this heavily warped and auto-tuned ending that does not satisfy whatsoever. Look, for most this track will be enough. Kanye's rapping again, yay! But while there's a lot going on, I find myself more irritated than actively engaged by this song. Sorry. So that was our week. And look, there were some weak points here. Monster by Meek Mill easily takes the slot for the weak slot, and with the dishonorable mention going to All Day by Kanye and his arsenal of backing vocalists and collaborators. But for best, when there were more better songs, well, honorable mention's going to Andy Grammer for Honey I'm Good, and I shouldn't even have to name what's the best of the week, but you know what? I'll say it anyway because it's incredible. She Don't Love You by Eric Paslay, one of the best songs of 2014, and now I can only hope it becomes a real hit this year. But you know what? That's a question for the future, and until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.